Toshio Okada provides a detailed analysis of Suzume. What did Makoto Shinkai discard and gain as a creator? We'll explore the true meaning. When Shinkai first appeared with Voices of a Distant Star, he was a complete artist. He was a genuine creator with a fresh sensibility and his own unique worldview. Your Name was Shinkai's Star Wars. He abandoned his artistic ideology and successfully created a film that reached the masses, beginning his path to becoming a national director. However, Okada says, Suzume lacks realism. The protagonist Suzume is supposed to be an ordinary high school girl, but she has infinite physical strength. There's an even more serious issue. There's no empathy for the cat character who becomes a sacrifice. The film fails to explain why he must be sacrificed. Despite this, Okada gives it 88 points. Even subtracting its low intellectual depth, it's highly complete as entertainment. This is the result of Shinkai's transformation. According to Okada's cow-tiger theory, Shinkai transformed his cow-like artistic nature into a tiger and chose to become Japan's national film director. Here, Professor Yamawaki makes a sharp observation: Suzume is a memorial film for 3.11. This one statement solves all the mysteries. Facing a disaster reminiscent of 3.11, no one dies in the film. Everyone is saved without sacrifice. This was a consolation message to the Japanese people. The sweet youth story and convenient ending are all acceptable. This is a talisman film to be offered at graves. A gift to all Japanese wounded by 3.11.
This is a video about the former director's work, Suzume's Locking Up. Good evening, this is Toshio Okada's seminar. Although it's about Suzume's Locking Up, it doesn't mean we're using the entire seminar to discuss it in detail. There's a segment where we go through the movies we've seen each month. And in that segment, it's about a 20-minute discussion. So, there are very few, just a tiny bit of spoiler information. Hardly any. Before the TV broadcast, it's a discussion that gives a broad overview of the entire film. This video is a rebroadcast of Toshio Okada's seminar number 464, delivered on November 20th, 2020. After the video ends, I'll share some additional upgrade information. There are some changes this time, so please look forward to it. Now, let's start the free video. Everyone's been waiting, or maybe not, I'm not sure. Sparrow's Lockup, you know. The reason I wanted to watch was, well, Makoto Shinkai's new film. Anyway, in Hoshi no Koi, I was amazed by his artistic style. For Shinkai, Hoshi no Koi is like his George Lucas moment. Like American Graffiti. Like Steven Spielberg's Duel or high-octane car chases. Anyway, a writer with a fresh sensibility. Boldly diving into what he wants to do. Not sure about the quality, but clearly doing something incredible. Makoto Shinkai was truly a filmmaker. For Shinkai, Your Name is like Star Wars for George Lucas. Or Jaws for Spielberg. A major turning point in his career. I thought he'd remain a niche artist, but then... You can totally get a major deal, that's amazing. When you go major, your artistic style might decrease a bit, but in return, you can use a big budget on a major stage and do something big. Wow, getting a massive scale project and becoming a proper author. Maintaining your artistic style, that kind of thing. From Around the Weather. Intentionally suppressing, or rather twisting your artistic style, transforming yourself into a national author. That's what it feels like. Spielberg originally had an artistic style, but it wasn't that strong. He has a strong childlike desire to play with movies. That's why Spielberg can make major films without completely transforming them. George Lucas, after Star Wars, had a similar auteur style. When he was asked to do that, He was originally a filmmaker who made personal films like American Graffiti and THX 1138. So he couldn't fully transform his style. After making Star Wars Episode 1 and such, he basically thought, I can't be a film director anymore, and retired. Makoto Shinkai's self-transformation was quite successful, I suppose. I'm not really a big fan of Weathering with You. But, well, I think that Modification was a huge success, including the producers. The score is 88 points, same as Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. I think 88 points because most people only watch 1 or 2 movies a year. And for someone like me, it's still November 20th. Someone watching this many movies by November 20th is kind of abnormal. A person like this. This person is abnormal, right? For someone like me who watches movies, 88 points, but for people who only see 1 or 2 movies a year. I only want to watch movies that are guaranteed to be good. Absolutely entertaining, guaranteed to be moving, enjoyable for the whole family, with no downside. It'll definitely make you tear up at the end. The music is also wonderful. Such people, like those who enjoy foreign films. Action movie fans should watch Black Panther. And for Japanese film fans or those not resistant to anime, Sparrow's Door Closing is a sure bet. A movie perfect for most Japanese people. Just like Demon Slayer. For me, Makoto Shinkai has successfully transformed himself into a national author. And that's a huge success. I find it interesting. But Makoto Shinkai's madness. I feel like there's no crazy part left in my head. I prefer writers who are a bit off in the head, like Hayao Miyazaki or Hideaki Anno. Like Togashi from Hunter x Hunter or Tatsuki Fujimoto. I prefer writers who are a bit eccentric. I recommend it to everyone, but personally, I found it a bit bland and unsatisfying. What I recommend is a road movie with incredibly beautiful scenery. One incident after another, without a moment to get bored. Sorry, but I think this might only make sense to people over 40. Ushio and Tora. The story is completely Ushio and Tora. I'm Ushio and Tora, and I call myself the National Yokai Pickup Organization. To defeat yokai across Japan. I travel nationwide, trying to get local girls to fall for me. And in the end, what happens is, I face off against a super scary fox yokai as the final boss. Well, it's a story with a female protagonist, healing wounded hearts and helping those who are struggling, while securing locations across the entire country. That's the kind of story I want you to imagine. And that's why I thought of Ushio and Tora. I think reversing 20th century entertainment gender roles is the 21st century approach. Like Yutaka Ozaki, right? Ozaki's rebellious spirit. That masculine element. In the 21st century, creating something like Kaya Kizaka's music for women seems to be the new style. It's the pinnacle of modern anime. There are mountains of issues, just like Wakanda Forever, since it's 88 points off. Basically, it lacks realism. Too idealistic, with no sense of reality. The lack of realism is that the protagonist Suzume has infinite stamina. That's just absurd. Anyway, something's up on the mountain, and I rush over, but I can't make it in time. There are many scenes where you have to go. There are many such scenes, but this sparrow has more stamina than Conan from Future Boy. This sparrow. It's totally lying. The more realistically you draw the background, the more these lies get exposed. These are the people who don't notice such things. People who only watch 1 or 2 movies a year. In other words, most Japanese people just appreciate the sparrow's efforts, and here, they don't question why it has so much stamina. Well, even if I dig into it, deep down I'm still digging. When Radwimp's song rises, I think this commentary will reduce the emotional impact. I think it'll make people unable to cry, so everyone suppresses it. Personally, I never felt any emotion from Radwimp's songs to begin with. This lack of realism. Climbing up the mountain once might be fine, but over and over and over again, there's a sign of something like an earthquake far in the distance. And there are many scenes where you have to run towards it. A lot of them. It's supposed to be a normal girls' school setting, but I'm thinking, there's no way this would happen. In other words, the theme and spectacle are too strong, lacking realism. Well, this is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Universal Gibras. Is this a phenomenon? The story feels childish. The stronger the thematic elements, the lower the intellectual depth. Because he's transforming himself to become a national author. Out of a sense of duty with this theme. Thinking he needs to heal these people's hearts. Creating something that doesn't exist within yourself through incredible directing and narrative skills. Which is why the ideological depth is low. Interesting. Having strong themes but low ideological depth is something that exists in this world. Really fascinating. I think Papel feels the same way. And there's this character like a minister cat who appears. And it's the keystone that stops earthquakes. The origin of the sword is that this stone was removed. Which is about a human sacrifice. Like Hitomi Goku, becoming a human sacrifice to suppress earthquakes. The pain of those kinds of people, so to speak. I have absolutely no empathy for such things. When the protagonist is sad that the boy she likes becomes a human sacrifice. Trying to save him, but then having a cat-like character who becomes a human sacrifice again. Is just unacceptable. If someone can be moved just because a Radwimp song is playing, that's fine. I can't do it. No way, absolutely not. To divert the audience from that pain and inner conflict, they forcibly inserted an episode like meeting one's past self, and created a conveniently emotional happy ending. Among the two sacrificial vessels, I think one of them should have been Suzume's mother. Maybe it was even set up that way initially, but you need to do something like that. In other words, would she want to be with her loved one even if it means losing her mother again? That you must sacrifice something for something else. But that's not necessarily true. People can be happy without sacrifice, but at least for storytellers, without incorporating such pain into their story, there's no depth of thought. If everything goes perfectly, the story inevitably becomes shallow. I think it's good to have a sorry that can move you with Radwimp's song. I've now made enemies of Radwimp's fans. Thank you for your hard work. This free video ends here. Regarding the upgrade information, it's about Suzume's door locking. I reviewed it again this time. Looking at it now, quite some time after its release, I started to think it might actually be pretty good. I was convinced, you know. In the video, the fixed nature is strong, and there's no disappearance, etc. Conveniently, without any sacrifice. Like, if it ends up being a happy ending, there's no sharp edge, so it feels unsatisfying. I was saying that, and also the otaku of the same generation who saw it back then. Many otaku were saying something similar. However, Dr. Yamawaki, who's familiar from life counseling segments, said that might not be the case. There's a memo from Dr. Yamawaki. He suggested that everyone might have been too tense because it was Makoto Shinkai's latest work. In the past, works like Voices of a Distant Star and 5 centimeters per second had such a strong authorial style. Makoto Shinkai, an anime director, slightly diluted his style in 2016 to go more mainstream. With the name you chose, he became a best-selling author with a massive home run. His second film, Weathering With You, aimed for the major route in 2019. The message was eerie and interesting, but lacked punch. But it was a hit. The next one was Suzume in 2020. Because of this flow, everyone was thinking, What move will Makoto Shinkai make with his third major film? What intense message will he have, as always? Because there was something that bit into him. Looking at it that way, it seemed like a convenient story with no sharp edges. This is Professor Yamawaki's analysis. Professor Yamawaki's analysis continues. Looking at the film more than a year after its release, without the initial expectations, it's actually quite a good national film that could impact the entire population. Though I mention convenience, this film is fundamentally about the 3.11 East Japan earthquake. Instead of escaping through metaphors, it writes about things quite directly. Even Shin Godzilla was using metaphors, but at this point,